The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I fucking love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Oh, does it feel good to be home? We got the flow on the road, banging the air drums early. That audio crystal is not lost upon me. Great to have everybody with us, albeit delayed 48 hours. As scheduled, I am in my twin brother's studio here in Boca Raton, Florida. All of this equipment used to be in my house. Now it's here. But I'm on the road, of course, for UFC 327. I will drive to Miami after the show. Are you in vacation mode in South Carolina? You look good.
Thank you, sir. I am. I'm in South Carolina visiting the in-laws, and everything is good, man. We got some nice weather over here. Not too bad. A little cooler than normal, but we're good, man. Yeah.
So my kids are on vacation. I was in Orlando the last few days. We went to Universal Studios. We went to Epic Universe and the Super Mario Land, which was very exciting. I think especially for my son, but also for me growing up in the 1980s and playing Super Mario Brothers. Very cool to see that. I know there are other Super Mario worlds out there, but this was my first experience with it. And I got to just say that as a man who's been on less than a dozen roller coasters in his life, I went on the best ride that I have ever been on. So I'm afraid of heights. And every time you're getting on a roller coaster, they say, maybe you shouldn't ride this if you're afraid of heights. And I said, well, once my daughters wanted to start riding roller coasters, fear was no longer a factor for me because you got to go on the roller coaster with your daughter. Oh, daddy's afraid. I'm going to go, right? So, and I don't know if I'll ever go on that Hulk one that spins you upside down. MMA content coming up shortly, incidentally. But this like Hagger's rides, a Harry Potter roller coaster, like third scariest ride in the park, at least on paper, was absolutely outstanding. It's like I'm on a motorcycle, but I'm strapped in. I got my daughter in the little cart to my right. Hagrid's Flight. Okay. So it looks like our New Hampshire-based producer, Cody Merrow, has been on this experience. So at what point you go backwards? And then I'm sort of wondering in my type A mind, like, well, I wonder where we go from here because I don't see another track, right? So then you drop down to another track. And it's not a big drop, but wildly exciting drop and ride. So I do recommend Islands of Adventure, Epic Universe, the Hagrid Flight. Thank you all for being here on Wednesday. It's episode 590 of the Anik and Florian podcast, powered by All the Smoke Fight. Thank you all for subscribing to the Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel. We are back on that channel. Also, please kindly subscribe to All the Smoke Fight, where the show can be accessed as well. It is the 8th of April, 2026. And oftentimes, Kenny, we are doing this show Monday morning and as early as 9 a.m. Pacific. And a numbered event pay-per-view week has not even started to marinate. So now I sit here having ingested 2 episodes of UFC 327 embedded. Jiri Prochazka, Carlos Ulberg, boots on the ground. Very excited for this title fight. I'm a little bit surprised that Prochazka is the favorite. And I think a lot of people would suggest that his championship experience and all the big fights that he's been in, the recent wins over Jamal Khalil Roundtree Jr., have earned him that distinction. I guess I'm looking at Carlos Ulberg, who has reeled off 9 straight since losing his UFC debut, who maybe just turned in the cleanest 1-2 in UFC history to punch this championship ticket. I think he's got a great chance. When I hear him say shock the world, and I'm leading this way because I just watched Embedded, when I hear him say shock the world, I really don't believe anybody is going to be shocked if he gets this done on Saturday.
Right. Yeah, it's such an interesting fight, and out of all of those, it was probably the trickiest one for me to pick. You have 2 very contrasting styles, and a couple things. The good thing is that Ulberg really has looked very clean, very orthodox in his approach to the game, where Jiri is just so unorthodox. But Jiri also has been proven in a lot of ways. Yeah, people question his chin here and there, but the guy has been through some serious wars. We haven't quite seen that, for better or worse, from Ulberg. So perhaps that's why, we're seeing that. But man, this is going to be a fantastic fight. And no question, Ulberg's chin and his toughness will be tested here against Prochazka. And, I don't know if that one's going to go the distance, but I think it's going to be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, I think we're getting a knockout. I really do believe Jiri Prochazka is a mental giant of this game. And I just think his ability to fight on instinct and be present in the moment could be the reason that he wins this fight. But it's just a fascinating fight. And I can tell you that Jiri Prochazka moves a lot of needles to a great extent. When I go to the gym in Port Chester, New York, people ask me about Jiri Prochazka, whether he's fighting for the title or not. So I really do think that the fights against Alex Pineda and the big fight showcases of which he has been a part have really put him on the radar of even some casual MMA fans. And Carlos Ulberg looking to steal some of that shine Saturday night, UFC 327 live on Paramount Plus. A lot of fights on CBS, incidentally. You're getting Kevin Holland, Randy Brown, Aaron Pico versus Patricio Pitbull, Cub Swanson, Nate Landwehr, and Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker on CBS. At least those four, if my fight card is to be believed. All right, coming up today, Ken Flo's on vacation. We made him prep 9 fights. So Kenny did not fight 327. Gianni the Greek is back with us. He was one of our initial when we launched this show 2015, 2016, 2017. So we're very happy to have UFC on the lines. Vegas insider.
Can we say that we made Gianni? We made Gianni? Is that too strong of a statement, John?
Maybe he'll say. Maybe he'll say in his formative years as an MMA capper, the Anik Florian podcast, was the conduit through which he got everything done. But we're excited to talk to Gianni the Greek. RJ Clifford will join us here in about 10 minutes for a few minutes. I think he's actually with his children on the beach in Miami. Ray Longo coming up in 22 minutes. We'll see what his mood is like. And a heavy UFC 327 focus today on the Anik Florian podcast. But there are some things that transpired since we were last in your presence. To that end, let's get to headlines.
Headlines.
It's time for headlines.
I have some very urgent and important breaking news.
Headlines.
On the John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Well, Kenny, inconvenient truth of being in the UFC's lightweight division is that you might have to fight a teammate. And even if Renato Moicano and Chris Duncan maybe hadn't sparred in several years, this was not idealistic for them when it came to the matchmaking. And I guess it was a little bit he said, she said when it came to, or I guess I should say he said when it came to like who attempted the fight first, right? But certainly I think this stings for Chris Duncan, who had appreciable momentum and a huge win for Renato Moicano. He gets it done with a face crank at the 3:14 mark of round 2. Your thoughts on the main event at the UFC Apex just a few days ago, my man?
Experience. I think that really was the difference here. Moicano has been tested, and we talked about that. How he certainly had the more difficult schedule. He's faced the tougher guys. He has proven himself there. I think Duncan was the more athletic guy and was certainly promising. But Moicano's ability to stay calm, figure out the game plan, figure out the approach was critical. And knowing when to strike, knowing when to take advantage of the opportunity. And Moicano shined that night against a Duncan who was, certainly had some momentum and showed a lot of promise. It is not ideal facing another teammate, especially for the coaches and the team. It can cause some issues, but I thought it was a fantastic performance overall from Renato Moicano.
So you certainly can speak to that experience. It was a different backdrop on The Ultimate Fighter, and maybe you actually fought somebody in your pro career with whom you had personal connective tissue. But on The Ultimate Fighter, right, you're establishing a connection with Chris Lieben and training with these guys, right? So what was the fight in which maybe that was most a factor for you? Diego? What was it?
Yeah, against Diego Sanchez for sure. Just because we were teammates on the show. And it can be easy to get fooled into thinking like, hey, this is my teammate. It's like, no, you're both competing for a contract and you're probably going to fight each other at some point. And you had a friendship outside of that. And for me, it was a wake-up call, after he beat my ass and left a scar across my nose over here when I was bleeding into my eyes. I was like, oh, like this is an actual fight. Like you can actually get hurt. And these people that like you're friendly with may actually try to hurt you. Got it. Check.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is a means man game. I gotta get mean.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And not a true comp that I'm making because Ken Flo was just wicked green. And you're talking about two guys. I mean, Chris Duncan, you could argue, is nearing the prime of his career. What do you make of Renato Moicano, right? It was interesting to hear him sort of talk about his financial situation on the post-fight show. And certainly the Islam Makhachev payday, it stands to reason, was 7 figures. And that's not enough on which to retire. But it seems like monetarily he's in a better place than maybe he was a couple of years ago when it seemed like everything out of his mouth was, I need money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do with Renato Moicano? And every time he competes, it's hard for me to not think about his post-fight interview against Islam Makhachev when he said, this isn't a short notice fight. My whole life has built to this moment, and I just got dusted in a minute, when he was absolutely devastated. So what do you make of him now moving forward? He moves to 9th in the rankings. Mauricio Hufi and Rafael Fiziev are 10th and 11th, respectively. What do you do with Renato Moicano right now?
Gosh, I think that he's going to find himself in some big fights. I think he's such an interesting guy, maybe polarizing in a lot of ways with his post-fight antics or, interviews and things like that. But I do think he's a guy who's not going to be afraid to go out there and entertain the fans. I think he's a guy that can pose problems for a lot of people in that top 15. I don't think he's a championship caliber fighter, but I'm not sure he thinks he's a championship caliber fighter either. I think he realizes he's got some work to do, and obviously the division is insane. But I do think he understands that it's a business. He's out there to entertain. He wants good, big fights against some big names. And who can some of those people be? I mean, Hufi would be really interesting. I think Fiziev, obviously, he's already gone against Dariush, came up short there. I think with different circumstances, he could win that fight. So, I think he can definitely break into the top 10 and pose some problems for people. His grappling is excellent. His experience is really good. He's big for the weight class, knows how to utilize his striking. So I'm interested to see where he moves from here.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Mauricio Hufi fight because Renato Moicano is such a realist and truth teller that he said on the post show, a couple of years ago, I wanted that dude. After seeing what I saw against, I'm good.
He's honest, man. You gotta love it.
All right. Speaking of a man of veracity, let us go 3 wide and welcome in our recurring guest and our favorite one at that. He is already wheels on the ground in South Florida, I do believe. Yes.
Oh, no shirt. What?
RJ.
No. Rated R, not rated X. What's up, boys?
What's up, man?
Ever since I started doing this podcast, I'm like, I got to start living like the jet-setting, highfalutin lifestyle. So I'm in Miami early.
Well,
we're
I gotta excited.
Fill in.
We're very excited about the future, especially as your role on this program becomes a little bit more omnipresent. So where are you exactly right now?
I am in. Babe, what hotel is this?
Doesn't even know.
The Cadillac Hotel in Miami.
Okay,
nice.
So
I just go where I'm told.
Yeah. So
brought the wife and kid out early.
So you're staying at this hotel the entire week as you work, or are you going to a different hotel?
I'll be staying here for a while, and then I'll go Thursday to the host hotel, the UFC hotel, and then I'll start working Friday, Saturday. But it's spring break for the kid. The wife loves Miami, so we're like, let's go a little bit early. And so here we are.
Awesome.
All right, well, we are only going to take about 600 seconds or fewer of your time. But I do want to ask you about the main event between Renato Moicano and Chris Duncan, because oftentimes when I am emceeing an official weigh, and I will say, all right, next man to the scales, the man around whom this fight card was built. And not to suggest it wasn't built around Renato Moicano, but this was a majorly missed opportunity for Scotland's Chris Duncan, right? This was his opportunity to spin it forward and move himself up into the divisional elite. And obviously he's upset that did not happen. What were your thoughts on this fight this past weekend?
Yeah, I echo Kenny. I mean, experience is just such a big factor, especially as training partners. I mean, as the oldest of 6 kids, 4 of them boys, I can tell you my little brothers will never beat me at anything. And so when you're like the experienced guy at ATT, and Chris Duncan, I think his future is very bright, but it's just not right now against a guy that like kind of saw you come up a little bit. And so, I think experience is huge. I think that the grappling hold in Duncan's game were a little exposed by Moicano. They'll pass him the torch for the main event on Saturday.
So as we look ahead to UFC 327, it's not just on your X feed this week, but you have been leading the charge for Azamat Murzakanov verbally with me on the side and on social media. And this man has been thrust into the co-main event. You know, when we booked you on the show, I don't even think he was in the co-main event. So what are your expectations for your favorite fighter relative to the matchup this weekend?
No, I think he's fantastic. I mean, look, the numbers play it out, right? Just all these first round knockouts, undefeated. He's got this very unique kind of southpaw striking style where it's not a secret what he wants to do. And he's got a really deep toolbox, but he just reaches for just the sledgehammer every time. And that's just the step outside overhand left on a right-handed fighter. So Paulo Costa being right-handed, it's just great. Like certain guys have been able to kind of push him in different areas, but he's answered the call. Like he's been able to anti-wrestle. He's got a blind knee knockout as well. If you want to clinch with him, he's capable of doing it. He doesn't want to do any of those things. He just wants to launch, overhand lefts and end your night. But he's just so fun. I think Paulo Costa coming up to 205 and getting this matchup is just like, welcome to the deep end of the pool against the guy that and criminally unheralded as well with his record and what he's doing, especially the weight class that can really use guys like that.
I love that you've been on the Murzakanov train because he's a guy that I think has made a lot of money on the show. For me, anyway, I've picked him, I think, every single time he fights because I don't think a lot of people realize how skillful he is with that Soviet-style boxing and, of course, knows how to counter-wrestle. But do you think Paulo Costa is the biggest threat to him right now? I mean, because Murzakanov isn't the biggest 205er, right? And, Costa is quite skilled. What do you think happens in this fight?
So there's two Murzakanov questions I want answered. How would he handle a very lengthy wrestling battle? Because I think we've seen his cardio kind of not be great. That's not really what Paulo Costa is going to do. And how would he do against a southpaw? Because when guys have gone southpaw against him, they've had a little bit of success. Like he's still beating everybody, but by a little bit of success, the guys still get knocked out, but like lasted longer, hurt him a little bit. Paulo Costa does neither. I think he's kind of, and he's undersized, right? He's coming up from 185. I don't know if he offers anything unique that he hasn't seen before, other than just being good. I think he's the best overall fighter. Murzakonov's faced, but I don't think he adds a different element that we haven't seen Murzakanov handle before.
RJ, Cub Swanson's retirement fight will kick off the numbered card against Nate the Train Landwehr, who, by the way, told us in a fighter meeting one time, it's not Nate Landwehr, right? It's either Nate the Train Landwehr or Nate the Train. And I said, I understand the assignment.
Yes, sir.
So certainly don't need your prediction on this one, but you sent us some valuable pre-show notes, which had me sort of looking at some Cub Swanson highlights and doing sort of my own career retrospective in my own mind. A guy at featherweight who beat Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira back-to-back, if memory serves. What will history say about Cub Swanson other than the Hall of Fame fight against Doo Ho Choi?
That is such a great question because he's just such a fan favorite. He was so good, but not, never quite broke through to the championship level. I think there was one point when he was ranked like number 4 and he'd lost to number 1, 2, and 3 and beat 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he had fought everybody.
A 6-fight win streak or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he had fought everybody who was anybody at featherweight and beat almost all of them other than, the Aldos and the Mendezes and the very, very best guys. And so it's a weird situation, right? Because my first thought is a Hall of Fame level fighter, but no championship gold, no like massive wins over guys that were championship level at that time. But he was just such a fan for me. And I'm very biased because we both came up in the same time, same area in Southern California. So I was able to watch him go from this kind of a punk jiu-jitsu kid that was kind of in and out of juvenile hall to family man, business owner, guy that talks to kids in juvenile hall to try to help get their lives right. It's been, I'm only a year and a half older than him, but I feel like I got to watch him like grow up. And also when he retires, there's literally no one else on earth that should be allowed to throw a head and arm throw in the octagon ever again, because it's just, it hurts my eyes every time. He's the only guy that can do it, Kenny. Like only guy that should be allowed to do it is Cub Swanson. Once he retires, it's like ban it.
Well, and he's a little bit older. He's had a ton of fights, but I'm not sure his speed has gone away either, man. I think he's going to be the faster guy on Saturday night, and I think it's going to be entertaining as hell.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the? I mean, I know Cub said he was going to retire before, and if he goes out there and maybe gets another win, do you think he sticks around even longer, or what?
He's done.
He's done.
There's
100%.
I mean, MMA, you know this. MMA retirements are like an honest politician, right? Like they just don't exist ever. Like they don't. I mean, there are a couple things. He did open his gym now here in Orange County.
Yeah.
That's about to be open any second. So there's a couple phases in life that he's taken that kind of lead more towards retirement. So I'm more inclined to believe than kind of the last time. But he's such a badass, man. Like it might be performance dependent. Like it might be like if Nate.
Well, that's why, yeah.
Yeah, like he might have to lose to really, really for sure say I'm done. And like, look, I think Nate Landwehr's awesome and super fun. I think he's very hittable, which plays into Cub Swanson's boxing really well. But if Cub's gonna do what he's been saying for the last like 2 months, like I'm gonna let it all hang out. It's my very last fight. Just falls to the wall. Like that plays into Nate Landwehr a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious about what the first 30 seconds of this fight looks like, and I think the ending will kind of sway Cub a little bit more than maybe even he's willing to admit right now.
Well, he's 42. RJ's right. He just opened Bloodline Combat Sports, beautiful new gym, and seems like he wants to get into coaching, which I think would be an amazing way for him to give back and also perhaps realize some monetary gain if he can build somebody into a champion. But yeah, I think there will always be opportunities, bare knuckle or otherwise, for Cub Swanson, but I don't know that you're ever going to see him compete in combat sports again. And I'll just say, sort of to bookend the Cub thing, because I didn't know about the connective tissue with you and him. RJ obviously is a fighter yourself coming up in that area. For me, as a formative MMA journalist, right, that fight against Jose Aldo just was emblazoned upon my mind forever. So when people ask me Cub Swan, 8 seconds against Jose Aldo was my memory. You know what I mean? And he's just, tougher than what does Chael say? Like a $2 steak. I mean, he's just so tough. It's a toughness that I can't relate to you guys and Cub, and just Killer Cub, man. He's got 2 emojis just to himself, the fucking knife and the bear.
He's got, I'm going to butcher the record, but he's something like 9-3 when he breaks his hands in fights. Something like he
we need that stat up on the screen when he fights. Yeah.
Right. That's like you talk about like fight metric numbers you should keep track of. Like, what's your record with broken hands? He fights better when his body betrays him and says, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be fighting anymore. Like that's just how tough the dude is.
Hey, 2 quick ones on the way out. I know you got to go. So some of your notes say white boys just aren't as slick as Ethan Ewing. I'm not sure if that was meant for air, but you and Kenny are like gawking at Ethan Ewing, and I think rightfully so. Anything for us on him real quick, because I know he's on your short list of new favorite fighters.
Yeah, man. I mean, not since Kenny Florian Clay Guida have I seen a white boy so clean. Kenny. Pivoting, quadruple jabs into like 180-degree angle, and not just clean boxing, but it's just all that gray area MMA boxing. Like when Esteban shot on him at the end of round 2, you heard his corner Ben Jones make him pay. And as he came up, right hand, left hook, right hand dropped him. I mean, that was one of those rare fights where the apex was better because you heard every pop and you heard the loudest corner in MMA, and all the instruction, and he was screaming, "Take him to the bakery!" Bread basket, body shot, third round, liver shot, knockout. You're just like, God damn it. And also, he's a Division II wrestler, so us D2 guys got to stick together because it's still college wrestling, right? It's still real to me, damn it. Like we're still legit.
Yeah, the bro is clean, man. His striking is absolutely phenomenal. Some people online on one of the threads that had comparing him to Topuria. I don't know if he's at the Topuria level yet with his power, but the way he moves and his defense and his ability to get on the inside and mix up strikes, it is beautiful to watch. And I think you're right, RJ. I think you said something about like his mic skills. If we can improve his mic skills, this guy is going to be a massive star, but he may not even need that because he fights so well. So everyone in that, I know that division is insane right now, but watch out for Ethan Ewing.
Back-to-back fights. he upset an undefeated fighter with like massive style points, not like split decisioning and just trying to figure it out. Kenny, do you think there's a power issue with him? That's literally the only thing I can think of is like he needs a lot of cumulative strikes to get the job done. Do you think he needs to sit on his punches more? Do you think it's a genetic thing? Like,
I think he's a little.
Anything else? I can't think of anything else to really grill him on.
Right, I think he's a little upright now. First of all, he won basically with that body shot, right? So he clearly has some power. But yeah, I think that maybe he's a little too upright. If he sits down some of his punches, I think he's going to be able to create more power. And a lot of that also comes from structure. I think it can be learned. He is certainly talented, and I think can add that into his repertoire as he moves on and gains more confidence. And I think that's where he really is going to be a threat now that he's seeing what he can actually do at the highest level in the UFC. So, yeah, man, watch out for him. But I would agree. I think maybe that might be the thing that's lacking. But again, it's the 135-pound division. But he's a problem either way, man.
RJ Clifford with us on the Anakin Florian podcast at RJ Clifford MMA. If you're not following, why would you not be? Not now, but right now. And I know you have to go, but since you have called UFC 327 possibly the deepest card since UFC 300, I would agree, by the way, in terms of name value. Any strong conviction on the main event between Jiri Prochazka and Carlos Ulberg? Close to a pick'em right now as we sit here mid-fight week.
I've been very back and forth on this.
Okay.
I apologize. Someone on Twitter said this. I thought it was perfect. One of the really good analysts on there. I wish I could give him credit, but I'll be an asshole. He said something like, he's 85% wild man and 15% brilliant tactician. I think that's true. Like, you just look at the Khalil Roundtree fight, and it was just, in between his like somersault elbows and whatever the hell he's doing, he had the tactical sense to keep teeping the body to wear out Roundtree.
Yeah, right.
And then there was and the beginning of the end was he went southpaw to mirror Roundtree's southpaw for like 2.1 seconds, slip 2-1. That was the beginning of the end. So like he did a stance change at a very specific point to do one specific counter, and that's what kind of led things going that way. So if the tactical part of Jiri can contain the wild man of Jiri, I think Ulberg has some problems. Because normally I think look, straight punches beat hooking punches every time, right? And Ulberg is real disciplined, one of the smartest game planning camps in all of mixed martial arts. Maybe a top 3 gym in MMA right now. Maybe if Ulberg gets the title. But if Jiri can be a wild man, but have a couple moments of tactical, more moment of tactical sense, I think you can catch Ulberg.
I can't wait. I know that Carlos Ulberg is a little bit upset that as he arrives at the precipice, Alex Pereira is not there to greet him, but Jiri Prochazka is going to be there, and few visuals quite like them locking the door behind that freak of a human being. Let's go for that. RJ Clifford will be back with us, I believe, next week, if not the week after. Enjoy the rest of your vacation day, and I will see you boots on the ground in about 24 hours, my man. Appreciate you.
See you, boys.
RJ Clifford at RJ Clifford MMA. Good to have Randall with us kicking off this fight week here, UFC 327. Deepest card since UFC 300, perhaps, Kenny, right? Kelvin Gastelum and Vicente Luque are fighting in the early prelims, right? Those names resonate with fight fans. You have Tatiana Suarez, the number 2 ranked strawweight contender, competing in the 4th fight of the night. When's the last time Mateusz Gamrot competed so early on, right?
Right.
And Aaron Pico is not even on the main card. And can you imagine how many fucking eyeballs are going to be on Aaron Pico this weekend?
Absolutely, dude. Again, that's a main card. There are a couple of them that are main card style fights. So, yeah, a lot of talent on this card for sure.
Fun fact, Kenny Florian never competed on a prelim. I doubt Ray Longo ever did either. Let's get to the star of the show, Raymond Peter Longo. Where's my white code? Where's my...
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Look at him! Look at the motherfucker! That's what I'm talking.
Let's go 3 wide. Oh, shoot.
Where's my?
Hey,
What the heck
happy
is this
hump
thing?
day, Raymond, Peter, Longo, in all your blur, in all your glory. It's nice to see you.
Oh my God, am I blurry?
Well, you look great. I
Little
mean,
bit. Little bit.
man,
little bit, little bit.
Little bit.
Man, I guess
how
I
we
got
doing?
a week.
How we
I got a
doing?
week. I got a week out of my hair. It's out of control again.
That's why I wear a hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
How'd that work out for you, Kenny? You happy with everything?
It's good, man. I got
Oh,
a bunch
wow,
of hair
nice.
now. It's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, I
Look at
love
this
it.
guy.
Oh, I
Yeah.
actually love it.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Wow.
Nice.
My wife
Ray,
was just
how we
looking at
doing?
an old picture of me. She's like, wow, look at you look so different now. You actually have hair. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think I'm going next.
Yeah, that is
I'm not
a
even
lot of
joking.
flowing.
Let's go.
So I dropped 2 cases of Throne Sport coffee off at the gym on my way to
Yeah.
run an errand last week. I don't know if you guys got it.
Yeah, of course you did.
But if you notice Ken Flo's beautiful Throne Sport coffee sweatshirt, that is our new partner, and we're very happy to have them for busy mornings, workouts, your everyday routine. You need a coffee that's on your level, Raymond. Throne Sport coffee, backed by Patrick Mahomes. It's functional, better for you coffee, made for active on-the-go lifestyles. Each can, 150 milligrams of natural caffeine, natural sweeteners, 100% of your daily B vitamins. The lattes pack 10 grams of protein. Cold brews, which I drink every day when I'm home, are low sugar and dairy free. You got multiple dairy free options, by the way. Throne Sport coffee is also NSF certified for sport. Big credibility there for athletes and anyone who is mindful about what they're putting into their body. You can find Throne Sport coffee in retailers nationwide, including Casey's, Quick Trip, and Whole Foods, or online at Amazon, Walmart, and their website directly, sportcoffee.com. Throne Sport coffee, get going, keep going. I think Ray's going to like the mint mocha, incidentally, but the listeners and viewers were wondering the extent to which I'm a man of my word because I haven't showed up at the gym yet. And once you guys have a technical setup, I will be there. I might be there more than you want me there, but until you have microphones and cameras, I can't show up.
I mean, you're basically 45 minutes away. It's not a big deal.
If there are no microphones and cameras, it is a big deal.
They're saying they're there. I don't know. What do I know?
Wow.
What do I know about the podcast business, Henry?
You just throw me right under the bus.
What do I know?
We actually, is that a Dana White's Contender Series t-shirt? That's nice.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So we actually were wondering about the possibility, Nate and Cody and I were talking behind the scenes about me being at your gym every week for the show.
Wow.
How would you feel about me being there every week?
Not happening.
Is that you trying to be funny or is that how you honestly feel?
No. That's me being funny. I'd love to see you, John. Come
Really?
on. 100%.
And obviously we wouldn't ask more of your time, right? I would just do the show live from your gym.
Yeah.
You'd get all the promotion that comes with that, right? And then you would do your segment and then you would go do your workout, push your sled, train your fighters, and I would do the rest of the show.
If you're going to do that, I'll put together a professional podcast room. We have an empty room. That's what we're thinking of doing. We'll do it.
Bang.
You know, beautiful chairs, scenery in the back, professional.
Let's go.
So, well, we appreciate you being with us midweek, and it's not our usual Monday slot. When we do the show a little bit later in the week, it allows us to maybe shift our focus even more to what is coming as opposed to what has happened. So not to suggest we won't get back to Ethan Ewing and Renato Moicano potentially, but have you looked at this fight card, Raymond, for UFC 327? I mean,
I looked at it. It looks great. Yeah.
I mean, your guy Randy Brown is competing the third late prelim against Kevin Holland. Featured prelim Aaron Pico, Patricio Pitbull, loaded main card highlighting the light heavyweight division. I mean, this is as good as it gets for me.
Look, first off, Randy's obviously not my guy, but he has been.
Well, he has roots there. I understand. He's Nardu.
Yeah. Oh no, great guy. No. Listen, I'm pulling for Randy. This time I got to watch him for at least a month of sparring with with this kid Levon at the gym. Beautiful, like high level sparring. I think he's got the great look for Kevin Holland, and I'm picking Randy Brown to win that. He stays focused. He goes forward. He does what I see him do in the gym, and he's winning that fight.
So we were talking a little bit with RJ Clifford about Cub Swanson, who kicks off the main card against Nate Landwehr here in a few days. And Cub is opening a new gym, and he's got 3 kids, and he's got a lot of things to occupy his time, but he's 42 years of age and he's still highly competitive. He beat Billy Q. He knocked him out in his last fight, took all of 2025 off, at least from in octagon competition. And as RJ's talking, I'm thinking like, there's never a great time. This seems pretty ideal for Cub, 42 years of age, still has his wits about him. The business is set up, but how do you turn down, bare knuckle boxing offering you $300,000 in 18 months, right? Like, how do you just step away and put the gloves down for good?
That's a question only those guys can answer. But, I had a conversation with Cub when Marab fought, and I think we were in California. I think me, him, and Delagrati. What a just super nice guy. I think super talented guy. And I think the conversation was he was kind of asking about the retirement thing. And what I told him was he still got the hands to beat a lot of guys. I just think you got to pick the right fights for him, and he's still better than a lot of people. So I don't think he can get into like a dog fight with guys, at this stage of the game, but they definitely could give him fights that he's going to win. And, Nate's he's crazy, but he's going to be hittable, but can he stop that pressure is going to be a different story, but wish him the best of luck. And how you step away, I don't know, the money thing is, when you could pick up 300,000 or 400,000, it's hard to walk away from it. It's not easy,
especially
to do
if it's a favorable fight, right? I mean,
yeah, especially if it's a favorable fight, and these guys are fighters. They're always going to be fighters till the day they die. And if you listen to my wife, she says you got to go for it. She'll tell you, you can't turn down the money. You got a family,
Yeah.
I'm not saying she knows anything, but she was always happy for Chris, even though sometimes I think I wanted him to put the brakes on maybe, but she was never on that side. She's like, he's got a family, he's making good money. Let him do it,
It's just tough, Kenny, right? I mean, like Henry Cejudo talked of, I think, a real estate empire and then came back to fighting. Now he came back and was in massive fights, and I'm sure there was competitive drive ingrained within that comeback. But the paychecks don't oftentimes get smaller, right? As you get older, they get bigger, and
which is horrible.
It's hard. It's hard
because
that's hard.
That's the hard part.
Realizing
things
the twilight of your
things are getting more expensive, not less so. And
Yeah.
you got 3 kids who potentially want to go to college and schooling or private school,
Oh, yeah.
or whatever it is. You want to give your family a great life, and give them opportunities. And again, getting that payday, that's not going to happen again, right? You're not going to have a 2-month, 3-month camp and make that amount of money in that short amount of time. I'm just glad that Cub is smart enough to have those other things going on, those other businesses going on. That's how you get it done. And you give yourself some kind of stability in future. Another thing about Cub is that, he's a guy that always fought with integrity. He was an old school guy, had the old school approach. He never changed the way he talked on the microphone or anything like that. He just did it his way, man. And I hope he finds peace, and hopefully he finds that financial stability so he doesn't have to come back. But, if he does, to me, he sounds good. It moves really well still. But, 42 is 42 years old, after doing a lot of MMA fights.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a couple of things. I think Cejudo found out too that even with real estate, it's risky. You could actually lose money also.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like, so it becomes, I think it sounds good. And then you get in there, well, fuck, I got to work 14 hours a day. Like, what am I doing? I got to do this. And then you start acquiescing back to, man, I could pick up a couple of 100,000 just for 15 minutes. I put in a month camp, whatever I'm going to do. You know what I mean? Like it's what they're used to. So when it's really, I'll tell you who did it right is Serra. Matt Serra just walked away. He had his schools. He still to this day, loves teaching, loves his schools.
Yep.
And Kenny's right on. You need that exit ramp where you're happy, because it's not even an exit ramp. You have to be happy with what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go to a 9 to 5 and be miserable. Then you're going to be looking to come back again. So, you have to have a passion for something else besides fighting. I think that's a great point, Kenny. And I think Matt was a perfect example of that. I think he called me one day and we talked, and that was it. He'd never looked back. never wanted to do a jiu-jitsu tournament. He was happy with those schools and still happy to this day with everything he's doing. He's got the podcast, he's got the school, and yeah, that's the guy you talk to, is him, because he did. I believe he did it the right way, and he's super happy.
Dustin Poirier talked about this extensively recently on the Joe Rogan Experience, sort of finding that identity after fighting. Kenny, I know you went through that in 2011 and probably still go through that at times mentally. And I actually think it would even extend to somebody like me, right? As a UFC commentator for 15 years, if all of a sudden I'm not doing this,
right,
to, how much of this is not who I am, right? Like, as Poirier is, right? But this is a huge chunk of my professional life, and that's going to be a hard reality for me.
Absolutely, man. I envisioned, retiring of being on the beach somewhere and putting my feet up, and I realized that was definitely not me. I need to be doing something, and I also need to be doing something with my body, and I need to be doing something competitively in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, I'm a miserable human being. So anyways, I hope that those other guys, find that thing that pushes them, that makes them tick. And it's not an easy thing, though. It's not an easy thing. But great. I mean, Ray, I'm sure you see it all the time with fighters that are, near the end of their careers or want to find some kind of closure. It's not easy.
It's not easy. I see guys even today, they're struggling a little bit. I got a couple of guys in the gym. You could see it a little bit. But John, I think John's right too. First off, it extends to all of us. I think my identity at this point is wrapped up, and it's the same stuff. Luckily, I got to school, and I got a lot of young guys around me that have some potential, and just trying to close out the chapter on like even with Aljo and Marab, and then see moving forward. But I don't think that's easy either. I thought I would have stopped 5 years ago, Kenny, but I'm like, now I'm at the complete opposite. I'll be 90 and I'm going to still be in the gym. I think that's the only place that actually makes me happy at this point.
Exactly.
Working out and doing my thing. Like
for all of us professionally, I mean, for John, whether he's calling a knockout that just happened that was insane, or Ray, you bringing a fighter to the big show and seeing them win, or winning in front of thousands of fans of them cheering, and after all that hard work of seeing it pay off with a win, there's nothing you can compare professionally to what we've experienced. I mean, I don't think so.
I'm agreeing with. Look,
hard to match that energy, man.
Because Kenny, it's weird. Like, because I'm sure you're kind of like me. You can't even believe people even know you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were at listen, Kenny, we were at the beginning, man. We're at the fucking beginning of this thing, and I think it's tough, because you'll meet old school guys that go, man, I remember you on the show, or I remember this, and then you meet newer guys that I remember when you said this, or whatever it is. It's all feel good moments that I guess at the end of the day maybe don't mean anything, but they mean something. They mean a little something. It's good to feel good about yourself and feel like you've accomplished something. And I think that is hard to walk away from, for real. I thought I swear to God, I thought I was done 5 years ago. Now I'm going the complete opposite way. I'm never going. I don't think I can.
Try to get out, they bring you back in.
Get back in.
Yeah.
So the first MMA event I covered in Tunica, Mississippi in February of 2007, right? So you're coming up on 20 years, right?
Oh, so that's big too.
But I just bring it up in the context of the conversation. I thought, and Kenny knows this because I met him shortly after that time, and we were first on television together in 2008. But I felt like I was late. I felt like I was catching up, calling Uriah Faber, Urija Faber, looking for a fucking pronunciation test, right? And yet, in actuality, the UFC was 12, 13 years old. And even if I didn't watch UFC 37 and a half, I was embedded earlier than I thought I was at the time, thinking I had to play catch up. So
wait, was it 37 and a half? Is that what you?
No, but I just remember, I watched UFC 50, I remember in 2004. Right.
Yeah,
I believe. But then I never, but then the next 2 years, I didn't watch any MMA. It was all boxing. But then we started on our Mouthpiece Boxing show to start covering MMA. And then it was off to the races. Once I saw the sport live in person, I was like, this is fucking insane. I got to do this.
And I'll tell you, John, I know we always talk about the podcast. How long has this podcast been going on?
We started April of 2015.
That That night, I remember that night distinctly when you came over and asked about. I think his exact words were, "Look, we need you. Well, if you could do a minute, we won't talk about fighting." That's what he said. We won't even ask you any fight questions. We'll just get your opinion on like a current topic. And dude, that seems like it was. I don't even know. I don't even know who I had fighting that night. But
so I wanted your voice. I mean, listen to this guy talk, right? We wanted your voice. We wanted your personality. We didn't necessarily know what the segment was going to be. But yeah, the Ray Longo Minute, it was going to be 300 seconds. I mean, it was going to be more than a minute, but maybe 5 minutes.
No, but that's what you see.
Yes.
I felt like he didn't even want to bother me. He was like, we won't talk about fights, and I was like, I'd rather talk about, you don't want my opinion on current events. That's for damn sure. But yeah, dude, that seems like it was. Dude, I remember. I distinctly remember Stitch that night. I don't know. So that was 2015. It's insane,
well,
man.
Thankfully, we went more in the MMA direction and not the would you rather direction.
No.
So it sounds like that's a better fit. Although
I think if you would have did the would you rather's back then, I would have walked off. I think it took like 10 years for me to feel comfortable to even get into that. That's fun.
Right. Well, no, and then there was a window there in which he was having all sorts of affairs on our relationship. He was a media mogul. You were on every single podcast. You don't remember?
What podcast was I on? I have no idea.
Wow. You don't remember a distinct time in our podcast history where I would give you grief every show for being on the UFC Zone podcast or some of these other shows. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, this guy is ubiquitous. He's everywhere. I mean, we need a new coach on the show. Where's the general?
Did you say ubiquitous?
Cheating on us.
Ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Wow, very good, John.
You are ubiquitous.
I see you're a Harvard man.
No. I did, though, teach my 7-year-old son this weekend. I gave him $50 in Robux because he was able to say figuratively. His mom can't say figuratively, but he can say it. So, he starts saying literally all the time. And I'm like, bro, you got to stop fucking saying literally all the time. I'll teach you the opposite of literally, which is figuratively, And then he walked over to, his mom and his two sisters, and he said, I just pooped my pants in the pool, figuratively.
I love it.
That's amazing.
So we're teaching, he gets plenty of screen time. It's not like I'm the parent of the year, but we're teaching as well.
That's fun.
Ray, I would like to ask you a few questions about UFC 327 if I could in the remaining time that we have. So my enthusiasm for this fight card as a whole is off the charts. I can't wait to see what Paulo Costa can do against this Azamat Mirzakhanov that seems to pass the eye test for all these high-level analysts, right? But this main event, right? And a lot of matchmaking comes down to how close the fights are on paper. And the betting line is but one lens through which to look at these fights. But this fight is very close on paper. Jiri Prochazka, Carlos Ulberg, vacant light heavyweight championship, Raymond. Do you have any feel as to how this fight is going to go down this weekend?
Wait, first off, what's the odds on this fight? That's got to be close.
It has bounced around a little bit. Prochazka is a slight favorite right now, minus 118. Ulberg is minus 102.
So yeah, it's like an even fight.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I was listening to you guys talk. I think I kind of agree with I think you guys were saying that. Well, I don't know what the heck you were saying, but whatever. But Yuri's unorthodox approach to everything, I think, is his superpower, and I think he's hard to get out of there unless you're a really hard puncher like a Pereira. But you got the steady Eddie. I do agree with that. He's going to come in with a good game plan, steady Eddie. But I don't think he's ever seen the unorthodoxness and power. This guy, obviously generates a lot of power. And it's a 5-round fight, which I think plays him because I think he's a very slow starter. I know he started out very slow with Roundtree. You were talking about that fight. I don't know if what he was doing, I agree with, was purposely breaking him down, but I think it was more a sense of urgency in the third round, knowing he had to do something or he was losing the fight. And he was able to pull that out. So he's on a good roll. He's fought the higher level of competition by far. I think you got to go with Jiri on this one. Who were the two best guys that Ulberg beat?
Dominic Reyes, his last time out, and Jan Blachowicz, I believe.
Blachowicz, yeah.
Close fight, right?
Two good wins.
Two good guys, yeah.
Yeah.
But
two
Ray,
good wins.
Ray, could you talk a little bit about, because I know you've seen this at the gym and experienced this, but can you talk a little bit about that guy that comes into the gym that it seems like he doesn't, like he's not doing things in a traditional way, but he gives everybody problems. Can you talk a little bit about the unorthodox fighter and why they give so many problems to guys that are kind of from a more traditional approach?
Yeah, I think the answer is the same reason like a southpaw gives people problems. You don't see it a lot. So
Right.
you have to adjust on the fly when you're in there. And these guys are really used to just being themselves and being uncomfortable and unorthodox. And I think over time it catches up, but it does take time. But when you're first in there and you see stuff that you never saw before, it's hard to really react in the proper way. And I think, like, again, you see that in southpaws. If a guy hasn't dealt with a southpaw, like a true southpaw, it gives them fits a lot of times. So
Yeah.
I think it's a similar thing to that. It's like what you've been used to. And, a lot of times, even when I would break down fights, I would see what the rhythm is, how the guy's defending, and then you got to break that rhythm. It's always easier for me when a guy's doing things traditionally, because then you could split it up a little better to me. You could be the unorthodox guy and get things in there, but I think that's basically it. It's just that you haven't seen it. I think like the closest guy I had to Jiri, I think, would have been like Luke Como. He did everything unorthodox, but he could fight. And he did have knockouts in the UFC, but he was just off the wall with everything. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying he was similar to Jiri, totally unorthodox. And I'll tell you, if Jiri was around before Luke, he would have modeled himself after. Yeah, he would have been. It might have changed his game a little bit. They had the same mentality, though, for sure.
You got to think that Jiri Prochazka has had an impact on a lot of young up-and-coming fighters in their formative years, for sure. All right, so when we started this podcast, I would have written out this question to be more efficient with it. I just have it in my notes, and it just says pressure on Aaron Pico. And I think it ties into Ethan Ewing a little bit, right? Because Ethan Ewing eventually would have gotten to the UFC, Kenny, but it is so fucking hard to be a pro fighter. Like, as Cub Swanson opens his gym and embarks upon this new initiative, I think some conversations are going to be like, hey, man, you should go do something else because, like, you're not going to realize monetary gain as a fighter. And when I think about, thank God Ethan Ewing eventually would have gotten there, but, if you slip on a banana peel, then, who knows? It's just so hard. And Aaron Pico, it brings me to Aaron Pico. So, Kenny, I'll start with you. There's so much pressure on this guy this weekend, right? There's always been pressure, right? He was signed by Bellator as the hottest prospect in MMA history in like 2014. So, yes, he's eaten pressure his entire career. But my goodness, his UFC debut could not have gone worse, right? And I just think this is as high pressurized a UFC spot in a non-championship setting as we have seen in a long time. And he's a very heavy favorite against Patricio Pitbull.
Yeah, well, thankfully, this is a kid who has experienced a lot of pressure, right? I mean, he was, the under 17 world champion in wrestling. So he's been there and done that. However, this is a completely different level. And I think that, John, you nailed it. When you've had so much expectation around your career and you feel like you haven't delivered, it can force you to maybe like do things that maybe you're not used to, and you push and you maybe once again don't perform the way you want to. Every mixed martial arts fighter, I don't care who you are and what you say, you're all trying to get to the UFC, and you're all trying to be a world champion in the UFC. He was finally there. He got it, had his opportunity against a great fighter in Lerone Murphy, was doing well, and then gets knocked out cold by a nasty strike. And that can be hard to come back from. Now, I don't see, and listen, he's experienced this before in MMA. I don't think it's going to change Aaron Pico's approach. He is always going to be in your face. I think he's always going to be aggressive. The key is he going to change the technical aspects of his game, of being more defensively sound, of tucking that chin a little bit better and things like that? I don't know, but this is not an easy fight for him once again here against Patricio Pitbull. So I don't know, man. He definitely has a lot of pressure on himself, but I think if there's one guy who can come back and answer with a big win, I think it's Aaron Pico, but this is not an easy fight to come back to.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, I think the good news is they were both from Bellator, right? So it's not like maybe that helps a little bit. It's not a UFC guy. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out there, but that might be a little benefit. He has no pressure. Is Bellator better than the UFC? I got to prove myself. I mean, luckily for Aaron Pico, he is the type of fighter the UFC will get behind. I mean, he's an exciting fighter, win or lose, and that's what they like. And I think this is a really good fight for him for a couple of reasons. Well, I just think it's a good fight because I think it takes the UFC thing off the table, and that could add a little pressure. So
yeah, well, it can't go worse.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's back in Bellator. Really, what's the difference? You're in a different cage. I mean, you know the guy. You've been around. You've been on cards with him. He's not unfamiliar to you like some of these other guys, maybe, but I think this is a good fight for Pico. And again, he's still pretty young, I'm assuming, right? How old is he?
Yeah, still in his 20s, right?
Chase that for you. I think maybe 29.
I mean, so I think Pico's going to be all right. I think he needed to adjust a little bit. I think those UFC jitters are for real. And again, the UFC now has really made it clear what type of fights they like. I think I think everybody has pressure on him, Kenny, to go out there and fight like a wild man. So he's not alone with the pressure. And I think, he comes from a good camp and he's surrounded by good guys that will explain certain things to him. So I think we're gonna see a really good Aaron Pico this fight.
It was just such a crazy visual seeing our good friend Brandon Gibson in the corner in the moments after that knockout, because in a lot of respects, it feels as though Aaron Pico's life has methodically built towards this UFC run. And then to be on the wrong end of that highlight, in part, it's like, welcome to your new life. Like when Ronda Rousey got knocked out by Holly Holm, what do you do now? So I love the kid. I can't wait to see what he does. Patricio Pitbull's a really hard guy to beat, and one of several highlights of UFC 327. Ray, before we let you go, would you rather listen to an annoying laugh for a whole day or get tickled for an hour?
I think
you got to go.
Get tickled for an hour.
Kenny?
Oh man, maybe the annoying laugh. That sounds like torture. Getting tickled.
I don't want to get tickled for a minute, so give me the annoying laugh all day long. And then Ray, finally, 5 bee stings at once or 20 mosquito bites at once. 5 bee stings at once or 20 mosquito.
5 bee stings.
Yeah, unless you got an allergy, in which case you're going fucking EpiPen in your ass.
Yeah. What's the word for that, John? Let me check your vocabulary.
Anaphylactic.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Prophylactic, anaphylactic.
At Ray Longo MMA is the handle on Instagram. Ray, we will see you next week, maybe live from Garden City, New York. Much love.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to start the podcast studio today when I go down there.
Please. Yeah. Talk to the gym.
Don't build it.
You're going to be amazed. Build it and John will come. Take it easy, guys. Have a great day. Take it easy.
Ray Longo Minute every week on the Aaron Florian podcast dating to 2015. But you know what it is this weekend. UFC 327 is Cannonball coming, and DraftKings Sportsbook makes every fight night mean more. When a fighter steps into the octagon, everything they built comes down to this moment. Stars explode, stars finish. And with DraftKings, you're ready to move when they do. Bet fighter props, bet live from the opening bell to the final horn. Every strike, every takedown, every finish attempt matters. And DraftKings Sportsbook keeps you connected as the action unfolds. New Sportsbook customers getting in on the action for 327 or anything else this week. Bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code AFPOD so you're ready for the moment. That's code AFPOD for new Sportsbook customers to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax Pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right, I got an extra hop in my step for the main event challenge today because we are being joined by as credentialed a handicapper and sports bettor as there is in the marketplace. And hopefully he can hear us. You've seen him on UFC On the Line and in other spots as well. And for all the OGs out there, you may remember this man used to be a staple of the Anik Florian podcast. Gianni the Greek Corrales is with us. Gianni, good to see you, albeit with a fucking Yankees hat. Welcome back, man.
Just for you. No, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me. In fact, I got up early and shaved for your podcast.
Let's go.
Yesterday, and I didn't even do that for my own podcast. But you and Kenny, I said I got to bring it. But sorry about the hat. Just had to wear it.
No, of course. Shirt, no, you look good. Yeah, it matches. You look great. You always lead the league in handsome. Because you're wearing the Yankees hat, I got to say one of the biggest hits of my lifetime, not that it was any big hit, but a couple of years ago, Aaron Judge to win the MVP or maybe whatever it was. But I have sort of advocated for just betting on Aaron Judge to win the MVP every year because even if he plays 125 games, he oftentimes can win it, as was the case last year. So if you were looking at Judge for MVP, right, I'd imagine, given your acumen, would absolutely not be betting it every year. You'd be trying to find the right price range. Is that right?
Yeah, and with that said, I tend to shy away from those kind of bets unless I feel really confident that it's inefficient, just because the hold is so high on those futures. Because it's kind of like pari-mutuel betting at the horse track. If a lot of money comes on team A, then the rest of the team's odds shift as well. So the hold on those end up being upwards of like 20, 30% sometimes. So they're really hard to beat. Unless you have like a really strong feeling or like you're a fan of a team and put a future bet, I get it. But as far as like placing plus EV on those futures, it's hard. It's hard, man.
All right. Well, we're sitting here April 8th. And if anybody wants to, you can still get plus money on Aaron Judge because he's going to win the MVP again.
They're going to have a great year, so he should. He'll be at the finals for sure.
He's always in the and I thought maybe that catcher from Seattle might have stolen from him last year. Anyway, so we have 9 fights that we're going to break down, and you guys can go as long or short as you like. But the number 2 ranked strawweight contender is fighting very early in the evening. So I'd like to begin there. The former title challenger, Tatiana Suarez, short price relatively, I think, to what she's accomplished. Minus 155, taking on 8th ranked Lupi Godinez, who is plus 130. She hasn't lost since a decision setback to the now champ Mackenzie Dern. What do you make of the strawweights, Yanni? We'll start with you.
Personally, I think this one's a lot closer to a coin flip than Tatiana Suarez being in that spot where she wins 6, close to 7 out of 10 times. And here's why. She's going to have a nice reach advantage, but I like Lupi's a little bit younger, so it kind of offsets that a bit. But with that said, I think stylistically, Lupi could give her some problem because of her takedown defense. She's got that solid takedown defense of well over 80%. But more importantly, she's faced a lot of takedown attempts, 44 in her career. Like you see some guys, Hokit, we'll talk about him later. He's got 100% takedown defense, but he's faced 1 takedown attempt. Right. That's it. Flip side, this is a different story. And I think in the stand-up, she will have the obvious advantage. And at the end of the day, I don't think Lupi will be in as big of a disadvantage in the grappling that Tatiana will find herself in the striking. I just think I like how Tatiana bounced back after the loss to Weili. But I just think at plus money, I got to look to Lupi. I think this price is a little bit jacked. And I think most favorites are, because favorites have done so well through 10 events real quickly. Favorites versus the closing line, John, are 97, 30, and 1. That's 76%. Well above, double digits above their historical average. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to regress in one weekend, but with that said, odds makers have to protect the books by, if the favorites keep winning, they have to jack these lines a little bit. I think this is one of those favorites that's a little higher than it should be. So it's a dog or pass situation for me.
I know it's been a chalky year, but a fascinating number you just presented. And if you hear nothing else today, you may want to lean into that a little bit. Kenny, Suarez is now 35, right? Time's got to be now to make a statement. She's 8-1 in the UFC, only lost to Zhang Weili, but I think she might need some style points this weekend. Tough matchup against Lupi. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think Yanni has a really interesting take. I think, though, that Godinez, she's typically been the stronger wrestler against, all of her other matchups. Here, she's going against a girl in Tatiana Suarez, who I think is going to have the wrestling advantage. Mackenzie Dern took Loopy down a couple times, and certainly I think we'd all agree that Mackenzie Dern doesn't have the takedown ability of someone like Tatiana Suarez, but Suarez is getting a little older. You got to question maybe what her confidence is like. Still maybe, having flashbacks from that Zhang Wei Li fight, but I think she's going to, get another win here. I like the way she bounced back in her last one. She was a little hesitant, I think, at some of those shots. But I think she can get Godinez down and control her and kind of take away that striking advantage. But I agree with Gianni that Godinez will have the stand-up advantage. But I like Suarez here to get it done by decision.
All right, nicely laid out, gentlemen. Next prelim for us at lightweight, 8th-ranked Mateusz Gamrot, -180. The unranked Esteban Ribovics, +150. So, Yanni, Ribovics, an interesting case. You can see why promotionally they're giving him a shot against the number 8 guy in the world. All-action fighter, could easily be riding a 5-fight winning streak. What do you make of his chances as the dog this weekend against the credentialed Mateusz Gamrot?
It's a step up for sure, especially when you look at the experience side, not just in the UFC, but his fighting professionally. Gamrot's got like double the amount of fights, put in a lot more minutes. So I see why Gamrot is the favorite. With that said, he's 35 years old, 5 years older than Ribovic. I was a little bit surprised when I dug into the data to find that Gamrot spends 64% of his minutes striking from a distance, about 36% in the clinch or on the ground. That's right at the average for the weight class. I thought based on his styles, it would be a lot more one-sided, kind of like with Suarez and Godinez, where Suarez was 70+% of the minutes, in the clinch or grappling. Right. So he's a little more balanced than I expected, but I think if Ribovic could keep this standing, he's going to have the advantage for sure. And I think he should be able to. Again, this is another spot where I think the favorite's a little bit higher than he should. And I think the line move kind of reflects that on the Ribovic side. Again, at +150, he's got to win this fight 4 out of 10 times for me to feel it's a break-even spot. So I have to conclude he wins a little better than that it's closer to a coin flip. But with that said, John, when you take a +150, you're still going to lose that bet, 6 out of 10 times. 5.5 out of 10 times. So you have to be prepared when you take these dogs that even when you're right, and there's value, that doesn't mean they're going to cash a ticket. But again, getting back to the matchup, I think this is a step up for Ribovic, but I think it's warranted to back the dog here. Again, Gamrot's now lost 2 of his last 3. It has been to better competition with Oliveira and Hooker being 2 of those 3 losses. But I think Ribovic is catching them at the opportune time. I wouldn't lay chalk with Gamrot here. For me, another dog or pass situation.
It's such an interesting interplay to listen to sort of the gambling language and that component with the MMA matchup. Kenny, Mateusz Gamrot, as Yanni mentioned, 35, right? 4-3 since the big win against Arman Tsarukyan back in 2022. And obviously the short notice fight against Charles Oliveira, I guess, was a low point, I guess, if you look at his UFC run. How do you think he responds this weekend against Esteban Ribovics?
Yeah, Ribovics, I think, is a really dangerous fighter, but he doesn't necessarily go out there and execute the best game plans. I think he's a guy that thrives when there's chaos, and Gamrot really has to be very aware of that. If Gamrot decides that, I'm doing better than him on the feet, I'm going to kind of see how this plays out, that would be a big mistake. He has to understand very fully who he is, and that is a guy who is a wrestler and who you can utilize ground and pound and outposition you. If he does that, I think he goes out there and beats the Argentinian fighter. I think he will. But again, Gamrot has to be smart here.
All right, next matchup. And I guess not unlike when he put 6'3" lightweights Ignacio Bahamondes and Jalen Turner together. Sean Shelby loved making this fight at welterweight. Randy Brown -122, Kevin Holland +102. Any strong conviction here, Gianni the Greek?
I don't have strong conviction, but for me, it's a favorite or pass situation. I like the Randy Brown side, and here's why. I get it. He's coming off a knockout loss to Bonfim, and it's tough to back a guy coming off a finish like that. You want to see how he responds. With that said, though, he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights, but the market got it right. He was the underdog in 2 of those 3 in the 2 losses. In fact, he's 4-4 as an underdog, but I think he's perfect in the favorites role. He's gotten the job done. So, he's even been profitable as a dog. the kind of guy that I like to back when he's at a dog or not a heavy favorite. And because of the name Kevin Holland on the other side, you're getting that value. I look at Kevin Holland, comes in having lost 2 straight, and when in doubt, zoom out. And when I zoom out a little more, I saw he's only won 2 of his last 6. I zoom out a little more, he's only won 3 of his last 7. I just don't have any confidence in this version of Kevin Holland. Again, no disrespect, but it's the tail end of his career. And I just think Randy Brown coming off that loss, it's kind of like a lot of recency bias. But again, he was expected to lose that fight, just like the battle fight. But the battle fight, I thought he won that fight. It was a split decision loss. A lot of recency bias in this line. I like Randy Brown. Anything less than -150, I do think he wins this fight 6 out of 10 times.
Again, really nicely done. Randy Brown, 14-time UFC winner. Kevin Holland has 15 UFC wins, a lot more chances. 53% winning rate for Kevin Holland across 28 UFC starts, which isn't great. Has struggled at times, Kenny, with fighters that can match some of his size. Kevin Holland, Randy Brown, close to a pick'em. Who do you love?
Yeah, 2 long and lanky fighters here. I think that 2 things really stand out for me for Randy that he has to be aware of. I think he can't get emotional here, something that might not be easy to do against Kevin Holland, who likes to talk trash before the fight and even during the fight. And the other thing is takedown defense. If he's able to stop the takedowns, I think that he can control mainly with that beautiful jab and setups that come off of that jab. That he loves to throw. So I like Randy Brown here as well. I do think Kevin Holland can be a threat, especially if he's able to get this fight to the ground. Randy sometimes doesn't make the best decisions when he gets grounded. But I think he's going to be able to stop the takedowns of Kevin Holland. I think that's Kevin's best bet. Kevin can be a versatile and dangerous striker as well. I just think Randy is going to be way more comfortable in that domain. So give me Randy Brown here as well.
Appreciate y'all being with us live for the Anik Florian podcast today. The great Gianni the Greek with us for the main event challenge for UFC 327. Featured prelim now, boys, at featherweight. Aaron Pico -340, Patricio Pitbull +270. So Aaron Pico's devastating UFC debut, Gianni, is well documented. His last 3 fights have all ended in round 1. So dating to September of 2023, almost 3 years ago, Pico's competed for a total of about 11 minutes. He's still just 29 years old. A lot of us believe competitively the ceiling is still very high. So is the price on him this weekend. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, this is so simple from a betting perspective. Again, if you're betting for action and you're trying to pick the winner, I get it. Go out there, pick Aaron Pico. He probably should win this fight. But if you're going to bet tomorrow, next week, next month, and the future UFC cards, then you got to be looking for value. That's the reason you're betting, unless it's just for entertainment. With that said, you got to be nuts. There's zero reason anybody should be going to the window with any confidence laying this chalk on Aaron Pico.
Right.
I get it. I heard about it coming in, just how the legend behind him with his wrestling from when he was young, and everybody just would go to show up just to watch him, just all the potential. I get it. With that said, he has 18 pro fights. He's lost 5 of them. So all the potential in the world still hasn't gotten me an ROI. And that's all I'm interested in from a betting perspective. And I don't think he's going to bring anything to the table Pitbull hasn't seen in his 45 pro fights. With that said, again, the advantages are the Pico side. He's 9 years younger. He's got a reach advantage. He's going to be taller, younger, faster, all those things. We get it. But price is everything. And you have to conclude Pico wins this fight 8 out of 10 times just to feel you have a small edge. Yeah, that's not warranted for me. I may sprinkle something small on Pitbull, especially if this line starts climbing with all the money line parlays. Otherwise, I'll sit it out. I just don't think there's any value. Gun to the head, Pico wins this fight. If I have to pick the winner, it's Pico. Right. But from a betting perspective, no way. It's Patricio or pass.
Nicely done, my man. Aaron Pico -340, Patricio Pitbull +270. Kenny Pitbull, former simultaneous 2-division Bellator champ, will be 39 in July. He was going to face Losane Keita in September, but Keita came in 149. And if you know Pitbull, he's no nonsense. Fight was canceled. Now he draws a much bigger name in Aaron Pico.
Yeah, I think Aaron's volatility as a fighter and, dare I say, recklessness, does not warrant that -340 number at all. So I agree with Gianni there. I think that, can he win this fight? Absolutely. I don't think this is an easy fight for him. You get a guy and Patricio Pitbull, who knows him very well, has had plenty of time to prepare. Obviously, people may criticize him for not taking that last fight, but he's a professional and he wants to go in there prepared. I got to imagine that, he's coming into this one well prepared for Aaron Pico. He's a guy that knows how to find out the knockout himself, and Aaron Pico will throw himself into that fire. And I think Patricio Pitbull will invite him into that fire. So I think there's value on Pitbull here as the underdog. So I like Pitbull in this spot.
Wow. How about that? What a transition, or way to transition to the main card opener in the featherweight division. I know Kenny shared a lot of his thoughts on this. Nate Landwehr -122, or should I say Nate the Train Landwehr -122, Cub Swanson +102. Landwehr going to be 38 in June. Had won 4 of 5 before this recent 2-fight skid. And I love the championship aspirations that reside within Nate Landwehr, Gianni, but he absolutely needs to get this one this weekend to keep any sort of that dream alive.
He really does. And like you said, he's now, a loss of 3 of 4, but 2 tough losses. I'll tell you what, I'm on an island here, John, because I personally like Landwehr in this spot. And I've seen the Cub money come in, and it was expected. Again, retirement fight. We just saw Chiesa get it done. Granted, Chiesa was a -700, but there is that recency bias. Went out beautifully, exactly how you want to see a legend go out with a W. And everybody wants to see Cub do the same thing. I'm a fan of Cub Swanson. I want to see him win, but I'm also a fan of my wallet, and I look for profit in the market. And I think Landwehr at anything less than -150 is the side. Cub's now 42 plus years old. And he's going to be at a size disadvantage here against a Landwehr who, like you said, is as in need a win as you're going to get. Now, how do you quantify motivation? It's almost impossible to do, but I still like that. And more importantly, I wanted to dig into the strength of schedule, because that's where it looks like it's the advantages. Cubs fought everybody. Cubs got all the experience. This is a step up. Slow down. Because even though overall the opponent's record has a higher winning percentage, when you look at the wins, Cubs wins, they come against opponents in the UFC that won 63% of their fights, the exact same percentage that Landwehr's wins. It's the losses for Cub that's impressive. His losses come against guys that are a combined 71, 28, and 2. So it's the losses that make it the strong strength of schedule. I like Nate Landwehr here. I think he wears Cub Swanson out as the fight progresses. I think that size takes over. If any grappling, I give him the edge. At least that's what the data tells me. He controls opponents for longer, gets controlled for less. I like Landwehr here.
Again, a really nice breakdown, Kenny. I think a lot of Nate Landwehr internally likes all the Cub Swanson shine in advance of this one and flying under the radar a little bit. I just think about his hunger and his desire in these fighter meetings and how badly he wants it. I think sometimes maybe he grips it a little bit too tight, but I can see why Gianni likes Nate Landwehr this weekend in Cub Swanson's retirement fight. What say you? Forced to choose.
Yeah, I think you guys are spot on with that analysis, that when it comes down to it, late in the fight, who's going to want it more? That's where Nate Landwehr is going to be a major, major problem for someone like Cub Swanson, who's been around the game for a very long time. Not to say I'm questioning his heart or his determination or anything like that. It's just, it's very different where Cubs, supposedly going to retire, and you have Nate Landwehr, who is literally fighting for his job with this one, in my opinion. Not to mention what it would do for his career to have Cub Swanson's name on his hit list. So, but I do think, when you're looking at a 42-year-old fighter, what I'm looking for is, slower reaction, slower speed, all that stuff. I don't quite see that from Cub Swanson, which I think is a very good sign. I also think he's facing a guy who is extremely hittable in Nate Landwehr, as RJ was talking about. I absolutely agree with that. I think Cub Swanson took this fight for a reason. Can he lose this fight? Yes, but I think he took this fight because it's very favorable to his style. I think he's going to be the faster guy. I think he's going to land a lot of shots early. Can he continue that later on in the fight is going to be the big question for me, but I like Cub Swanson here.
All right, now we get to moving night in the light heavyweight division. 3 of the final 4 will be at 205 pounds. That includes the former 2-time world title challenger Dominic Reyes, -135 against the now streaking Johnny Walker, who comes back +114. Yanni, what do you have for us on this one?
Yeah, this is the definition of dog or pass with these two. You can't lay chalk here. I like Walker's win, impressive win. I thought there'd be more recency bias coming off of that because Zhang Yang was coming in on a hot streak. He had 4 straight wins, 3 straight performance bonuses, all in the first round. And Walker got him out of there in the second round. So it wasn't like one lucky shot where he caught him flush in the very first round, very first minute. I like that. More importantly, the 3 losses leading into that are impressive losses. It was against Ankalaev, a no contest, a loss, and then Ozdemir, who was running hot. The Reyes side, I think we could take advantage of those 3 wins. Jacoby was a good win. He caught Anthony Smith at the end of his career, and he caught Krylov as soon as he returned off a 2-year-plus layoff. Ulberg showed us the questions Reyes had prior to the Jacoby win, where he had gotten knocked out 3 straight fights. I think this sets up dangerously for both men. I want plus money. I will not lay chalk in here because they're going to stand and bang. And Walker has the reach advantage, size. I don't have any confidence laying the chalk with Reyes. And I just think stylistically, I wouldn't have confidence. Just how it should play out. I think there's a lot of variance in how this fight, the outcome, because it should end by finish. It's heavily favored too. And when that's the case, there's just a lot of variance in the outcome. So at plus money, for me, it's Johnny Walker with the 5-inch reach advantage.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense when laid out that way. Johnny Walker looks to be in absolutely tremendous shape. Great training partners. He has talked about a move up to heavyweight, working alongside Francis Ngannou and Sean Strickland. What do you make of this, Ken Flo? Dominic Reyes, -135, Johnny Walker, +114.
Really, really interesting fight. Both guys can be knocked out here. I think Reyes is a better counter puncher. Johnny Walker has probably more firepower, and I think he's more reckless. So this is a tricky one. I could see it going either way. Gosh, both guys don't have the best chin. I'm going to lean the way of Reyes here. I think that maybe he finds a way to find a counter shot. Is there a lot of value on Reyes right now? Probably not. But give me Dominic here.
All right, next up, another close fight on paper. Heavyweight division. Curtis Blaydes -135, Josh Hokett +114. So Blaydes, really one of the more accomplished big men, not just in terms of his wins, but skills, to have never fought for the undisputed title. Did get a shot at Tommy Aspinall's interim belt back in 2024. Fought just once last year, Yanni. Narrow win over Rizvan Kuniev, a fight many thought he lost, but he's going to find out, like the rest of us, I think, the extent to which Josh Hokett is the real deal and ready for prime time. Pretty interesting fight at heavyweight. Who do you like?
I absolutely love the Hokett side at plus money. And here's why. No knock on Blaydes. I've made money throughout the career of Blaydes because he's been undervalued in the market because for a heavyweight, it's his style where, at heavyweight, 65% of the minutes they average striking from a distance. And that's just not his style. He said he spent 53+% of his minutes either in the clinch or grappling. And because of that, you've been able to find some value on Blaydes. But here against Hokett, Hokett's one of those guys that because of his persona, when he's not fighting, it gives you value at the betting window because he's either going to, he's one of those polarizing figures that you're either going to like the gimmick or you're going to want to see the gimmick, him lose. Yeah, either way, that's getting the attention desired for me, who's a value better, because he's going to be undervalued that way. Again, he's coming off back-to-back first-round knockouts. We don't have a lot of data on him, but what I do know is he was a collegiate wrestler. He played in the NFL, so he's as solid of an athlete as you're going to get. With that said, he's going to be tested in takedowns. With Blaydes, it averages successfully securing 5+ takedowns per 15 minutes. So that's going to be the test. But I think Hokett, just good timing for him to catch Blaydes. I think it's a good name to put on the resume. And I think that the kryptonite for Blaydes has been the power heavyweight that has the one-shot knockout power. And that's exactly what I see from Hokett. So I think Hokett does land the big shot. I think he gets Blaydes out of there. Hokett, inside the distance, Hokett by knockout, I think would be a decent prop bet. I like Josh Hokett.
Hokett, Ken Flo, former football player, 28 years of age, 8-0 as a pro, 2-0 in the UFC. Big spot for him this weekend.
After I started watching tape on both these guys, the picture got a lot clearer for me. I think Hokit, and Gianni, you're spot on. I think is a phenomenal athlete. The way he moves, I think his speed is going to be a big time problem for Curtis Blades. The question now is like, is the experience of Curtis Blades and his ability to maybe keep Hokit on the outside, is that good enough? I'm not sure. Both guys can wrestle, but Hokit, with his movement and his ability to get in and out, I think that can pose some problems for Blades, who I think is going to be slower. It's certainly the bigger guy, no question about that. Can Hokit get in and get out without taking too much damage? Being the fresher guy and not having as many fights, I think is kind of going to be an advantage here. I don't like, questioning Blades and his experience. He's fought so many tough fighters, but Hokit just might be that good, man. I like the way he moves, and I think he's going to pose some problems. So I like Hokit here as well.
All right, co-main event, light heavyweight division, Azamat Murzakanov just south of -200 at -198. Paulo Costa +164. A lot of eyeballs on Murzakanov, getting the showcase that many fans think he deserves. He has produced at least one knockdown in 6 straight fights. That is tied with Ilia Topuria for most among active fighters on the roster. Significant strike accuracy, near 60%. Best rate among active fighters in the division. He welcomes Paulo Costa back to the 205-pound division this weekend. Gianni the Greek, who do you like in the co-main event?
Yeah, and at 37 years old, it's now or never for Murzakanov. Here's the thing. You can't quantify like what's the value worth, but for some reason, I tried not to fade undefeated fighters. There just, especially when they have that kind of experience, there just hasn't been the proven game plan to beat them yet. So anybody could say whatever they want, but until we've seen it, it hasn't been done. So it's tough to fade Murzakanov anything less than -200. But the fact that he's only 2-1 favorite shows you just how much respect the betting market has for Paulo Costa, who hasn't been all that active over the last couple of years, and he hasn't gotten a ton of W's either. But he does fight for your money. Even though he's 2-4 his last 6, he's other than that Adesanya loss that was ugly, one-sided. He does fight for your money. So I could see why. I know some sharp guys that did bet the Costa side. I think that's why this line hasn't climbed a lot higher, because I do think the public's going to be on Murzakanov. He'll be in a ton of parlays, and I do think it's warranted. Again, we're going to find out more about Murzakanov in this fight than we will about Costa, and that's what I'm interested in. But it's not a bet I'm interested in getting to the window and firing. I think, again, he will be tested against Costa in the stand-up. And I got to see it play out. He hasn't been hit yet. He hasn't really been tested. He hasn't absorbed much. And Costa lands over 6 significant strikes per minute. He's going to land. I want to see how Murzakanov handles that. And hopefully Costa takes him in the deep waters, and we find out if Murzakanov is, a top 3 guy. So for me, it's a pass, John. But if I have to pick the winner, it's Murzakanov. Murzakanov.
I do always like that phraseology, though, when you say fight for your money, because, Kenny, perhaps Paulo Costa would be in an even greater position to fight for your money at 205 pounds instead of 185. Looks fantastic in the footage that I have seen. Issue might just be that the opponent is that good. Anything out of you on the co-main event, Ken Flo?
Yeah, I think that it's a dangerous spot as a fighter when you're kind of in this limbo mode of saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to kind of be in 2 different weight classes, and I'm going to fight at 185 and I'll fight at 205. And, is he in that spot to want to be a champion? I don't think he is. And that's a concern for me. And when you're facing a guy like Murzakanov with that Soviet style of boxing, who's kind of that Fedor Emelianenko throwback style of fighter, he's not in there to fight. He's like Jiri Prochazka. He's not in there to fight you or to participate in a sport. He's out there to crush you. He wants to take your soul. Murzakanov isn't there to kind of play around. And, man, watch out for that overhand left. And, I would have more confidence in Paulo Costa if I was like, you know what? I think if he stays busy every single round, stays focused every single round, he can win this fight. I'm going to be on the Paulo Costa side. Paulo Costa has not shown that level of focus and consistency for my liking, for what I think his potential is. I think sometimes he doesn't throw enough volume, and he's going to have to throw a lot more volume if he wants to win these rounds and be safe against someone like Murzakanov. And I think Murzakanov's movement, I think he's sneaky fast, and the moment you kind of think you have him, or he's not a threat, that's where he's trouble. And I don't think Paulo Costa is going to be able to take him down either. So I have pretty strong conviction on Murzakanov here.
It is interesting. Paulo Costa had a middleweight fight on paper against Bruno Ferreira in March at UFC 326. And I don't know if he pulled out or what, but yeah, now moving up to light heavy for the second time in his UFC career. All right, right back to Ken Flo to lead us off on the main event for the undisputed UFC light heavyweight title. The former champ Jiri Prochazka minus 118, Carlos Ulberg minus 102.
Wow. Prochazka, who takes a fight more seriously, who takes this business more seriously than Jiri Prochazka? This guy, again, he is a Bushido warrior. He's out there to kill or be killed. I love that about him. Everything from his mental approach to his technical aspects of his game and all that stuff. Maybe he doesn't show that technical ability, but boy, does he take it seriously, and he knows exactly what he's doing. There is a method to his madness. And I think that he has no problem going out there to die on his sword. I think that's what makes him so dangerous against a guy like Ulberg, who is almost the complete opposite. Very orthodox in his approach, very traditional in his approach. And he's going to be looking for that counter punch, especially that hook, that check hook going backwards. That's where he can hurt Prochazka. Prochazka has been hurt before. He knows how to come back from that. Some people question his chin. Now, if Ulberg can find it and find it repeatedly, yeah, I like Ulberg's chances here. But when I look at both guys, and yes, Ulberg has some good wins against, Blachowicz and other guys, Prochazka for me is a little bit more favored in that regard. He's faced top tier competition, and some people say that they haven't seen a lot of changes in his game. I have. I actually have seen little things that I think give me more confidence in his approach. And I think that unorthodox approach is very difficult to adapt to. Good luck finding a training partner of that size and that awkwardness, getting used to that. It can take time. And those are the most difficult guys to face for me. And yes, I know Prochazka is a little reckless at times as well, but give me Jiri Prochazka. I think he gets it done and brings that belt back to the Czech Republic.
All right, and the final word belongs to Gianni the Greek. Prochazka minus 118, Ulberg minus 102.
Usually, when I see a fighter or a team that's on a 9-fight or game win streak,
right,
and the competition's getting harder and they're winning, and now in that 10th fight, they're an underdog, sirens are going off. Red flags are screaming like, what are you giving me, a gift? But in this case, that's just not the situation, because across from Ulberg is Jiri Prochazka, who's not only a fan favorite, but the fact that he's had so many amazing fights, whether he wins or loses, makes him almost like an automatic at the window. Like, bettors love backing Prochazka. Like when he's fighting, rest assured, that's going to be one-sided by the betting public. They just love backing Prochazka. Every book I speak says that. And here's the thing, why I like Ulberg. It has nothing to do with the public liking Prochazka. I think this fight, number one, I thought it was much closer to a coin flip than what the line was when Ulberg was like a plus 120, plus 130 dog. I didn't think that was warranted. That's gone now. Now it is where it is almost exactly a coin flip. I don't think, I just, real quickly, I just wish that this fight was taking place after the Blachowicz fight. Because had this taken place after the Blachowicz fight, I'd be getting plus 150 or better on Ulberg. Because he came off of Ozdemir decision, Blachowicz decision. Two opponents that aren't the sexiest in that weight class, that even if he got knockouts and finishes, he's not going to get much credit for. And he knocked out Dominic Reyes. And again, he hasn't done it with much like excitement from the fans, but he's done nothing wrong. Like, he's been more or less perfect, except getting caught by Kennedy in his second fight in the UFC. And again, at plus money, I thought it was as close to a coin flip as you're going to get. And with Jiri, it's another fighter that not just that he could get reckless, but all his fights going to a finish. again, when there's finishes with so many ways to get a finish in MMA, there's just so much variance there. And you're talking about a guy that's gotten 3 performance bonuses in his last 4 fights. He's been in some wars. He lost one of those. Like, that takes a toll on you. If you, over his last 5 fights, he fought Alex twice, Hill, Rakic, Roundtree.
Yeah.
Like, those are wars. They take a toll. Ulberg's been coasting the last few, and I think he's being undervalued by the betting market here. I like that he's so good defensively, at least so far, and I think that's going to be the difference maker, that he's going to be able to land and not get hit as much. And you know, Prochazka's willing to take 2 to land 1. And against Ulberg, I think that's a recipe for disaster. I do. I like Ulberg here. I think Prochazka is even going to be forced to try to grapple, and he's not going to have success against Ulberg. He's got great takedown defense. I like Ulberg. I think he gets the finish as well.
Ulberg has the best significant strike per minute rate in the UFC light heavyweight division at present. We'll see how Prochazka holds up under that type of potential accuracy, precision, and sniping ability. All right, you guys have $3,000 to play with. It is time to put your money where your mouths are. We appreciate the heck out of you guys breaking down all 9 fights. Gianni the Greek, you have $3,000 to spend. How are you spending your money?
Lay out all the bets.
What? Yes, all your bets, my man.
All right. I'll go from the smallest to the biggest. Start off with Lupi Godinez, plus 130. I'll put a nickel on her, 500 to win 650. I'll take late Landwehr, minus 122. I'll put 610 to win 500 on Landwehr. Josh Hokett at plus 114. I'll put 600 to win 684. And then Carlos Ulberg, minus 102. I'll put 1275 to win 1200. That leaves me $15. This is how serious I'm trying to
love you.
Your show is all about turning a profit. So I'm only negative EVing 0.5% of my bankroll. $15 is all I'm going to invest in parlays. So $15, I'm going to tie up those 4, Godinez, Landwehr, Hokett, Ulberg. And why not throw in 2 more doggies in case we get there? Prado against Radke. This is much closer to a coin flip than he should be a plus 160. And I think the same thing with Medeiros and Padilla. But Medeiros shouldn't be a plus 150 either there. So if I throw Prado and Medeiros in there, this parlay won't cash, but I'm letting the viewers see other dogs that I think are live. So I'm willing to throw away the $15 to give a little extra to the viewers, because Prado and Medeiros, I think those are 2 live dogs. So $15 gets me back 17-14 on that 6-fighter parlay.
Amazingly laid out by, for my money, the best guy in this MMA gambling space, my man. Have you already taped UFC on the Line? You have, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, we look forward to watching that, and we'll see the extent to which your bets here dovetail with that. But I love the way you attack the board, and it was great having you back on the show, my man. Truly, you are world class. I'm going to let you stay for 1 more minute.
Yeah, I want to know what Kenny does,
and then I'll let you go. Go ahead, Flo.
Gosh, yeah. I didn't do all that fancy math like Gianni. The guy's an absolute professional. But, I do have some opposing bets. So I think things are going to get interesting next week. Let's see what we got here. I went $1,000 on Tatiana Suarez.
Wow.
I sprinkled some money all over the place here moving forward. $250 on Gamrot. $250 on the underdog Pitbull. I put $750 on Cub Swanson. Maybe that's my bias talking. Wow. I put $250 on Reyes and $500 on Azamat Mirzakhanov.
All right, so there it is. Yeah, I do like some of the dissension there. Gianni the Greek, outstanding job. You know you have an open invite. Just keep killing the board. This man has been absolutely crushing it, particularly here in 2026. The last 5 years, man, you've been on fire. Continued excellency. And Aaron Judge, AL MVP.
I'm going to bet it right when I get off of here. I swear to you. I'm keeping one of my paper-head accounts. Why not? I'll have Action Judge for MVP. Thank you both, man. Thank you. And thank you for opening the door for me, John. Without you, I don't even know who I am. So I appreciate you. Appreciate Kenny. And hopefully we make some money when the dust settles. Thank you. Thanks again.
Great work, man.
We'll see you in Vegas soon. There he is, Gianni the Greek, with us for Place Your Bets in the Main Event Challenge. And yeah, a lot of the MMA handicapping that you have seen on this show over the last couple years hasn't attacked it from all sides, and you just see the value in his information and how it can help bettors, which ultimately is what we're trying to do here. So, all right. Thank you to RJ Clifford, Ray Longo, and Gianni the Greek. Thanks to Cody Merrow, Nate Bronson, our entire All the Smoke Fight team. We are right back with you. Quick turn for us on Monday. I am now going to leave Boca Raton, drive to Miami, check in, and have fighter meetings in the morning. We can't wait to get this UFC 327 fight card to you on Saturday live on Paramount Plus. With that, for Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Thanks for watching, for listening, for subscribing to the Anik and Florian podcast. We will talk to you guys on Monday. Until then, have a great day and a better evening. Yo, fucking later.